I want to conclude today my discussion of the fabled clash between Galileo and the Church, which is supposedly a reflection of the clash between science and Christianity. I've argued that is not an accurate reading of what actually happened. Now, Galileo's book, called A Dialogue Concerning the Two Chief World Systems, published 1632, was a mixture of good and bad arguments for heliocentrism. As I mentioned on Friday, Galileo falsely argued that the motion of the tides, the fact that the water goes back and forth, is a proof that the Earth is going around the sun, because supposedly as the Earth moves around the sun, it sloshes around the water in the oceans. This is, by the way, flat out wrong. The reason for the tides, as was demonstrated really by Newton conclusively a little bit later, was the gravitational force of the sun and the moon acting jointly on the Earth. That's the real reason for the tides. Galileo made other errors in his book. So the point being, it's not that Galileo was he was right about his conclusion, but the definitive evidence showing that didn't come out till 50 years after this debate. Now, why did the Church sort of go after Galileo? Why did they make an example out of him? It's pretty unique, to be honest. It's the only case in the entire history of Christianity where the Church, Catholic or Protestant, has targeted a scientist or has taken on any particular scientific theory. It's only happened once. And so for people who think, wow, there's been this ongoing clash between science and religion, you should be able to find 15 examples of the Church going after scientists, denouncing various valid scientific theories, but you can't. You only have one case. And this case alone as well doesn't really prove the point either. Now, one of the problems for Galileo was that he didn't just stay with his scientific theory. He also began to tell, really, the Church how to read the Bible. This was a huge tactical mistake. Not that, by the way, Galileo's Bible philosophy was wrong. Galileo was basically saying that the Bible needs to be read both literally and figuratively. There are certain passages that are literal. There are other passages that are metaphorical. Obviously, the Bible also has parables and so on. But Galileo included in his book a sort of theory of how to read the Bible. And the Jesuits kind of warned Galileo, listen, Galileo, you're not a priest. You're not part of the Church. This is not your job to pronounce on ecclesiastical matters. And so something not well known by the public, which is that Galileo began to dabble in something which the Church very jealously guarded as its own jurisdiction, its own authority. That was part of the problem. Also, interestingly, this was the age of the Reformation. Protestant thinkers were attacking the Catholic Church and saying, the Catholic Church doesn't take the Bible seriously. The Catholic Church doesn't pay attention sufficiently to the specific language of the Bible. And so oddly enough, this was a case where the Pope was trying to demonstrate to the Protestants the Catholic fidelity to Scripture and the geocentric interpretation, by the way, of Scripture was common to the Catholics and the Protestants. Both Catholics and Protestants read the Bible to be saying, in very conventional language, that it is the earth that is at the center of the universe and the sun goes around the earth. So one historian, Richard Blackwell, has made the point that had the Reformation occurred like a century before or even a century after, probably the Galileo affair would not have happened, but the Catholic authorities took it as a kind of way to mend fences with the Protestants and show the Protestants, hey, listen, we care about the Bible just as much as you. I think what really sealed Galileo's fate in the Galileo trial was when Galileo came back to Rome in 1633, he was again a celebrity. He was treated with respect. And in his trial before the Inquisition, Galileo might have prevailed, but something came out. It's like one of these cases in a trial where a bombshell piece of evidence comes out and completely discredits your case. In fact, even makes people who are on your side sort of go, oh, well, you know what, he's guilty. It's kind of like, we have, of course, the upcoming trial. Debbie's following this really closely in the Idaho killings. Yeah, and you can just imagine that in the middle of the trial, they produce, DNA evidence and it's conclusive and everyone goes, oh, wow, yeah, the guy probably, he did it. Similarly, what happened in the Galileo trial was right in the middle of the trial, somebody went through Cardinal Bellarmine's notes. And what did they find? They found a statement by Galileo basically saying, I will not publicly teach or advocate the heliocentric theory. This was Galileo's own admission that he would not do this. And of course, he had done exactly that. Now, Galileo never told anybody that he had made this agreement with Cardinal Bellarmine. He didn't tell the Inquisition. He didn't tell anyone. So when it emerged in the trial, even people who had supported Galileo began to feel like, well, this guy's not really being very honest. He himself made this commitment and then is reneged on it and refused to disclose that he had made the commitment in the first place. So Galileo was found guilty, but as we'll see in the next segment, his penalty was really pretty mild.